Hi, I'm Shane, and I'm going to do some drawing in my sketchbook today and talk a little bit about my experiences over the past 30 years doing creative work. But first, I need to go out to my garden and find something to draw. I think I'll draw some okra pods today. My gardens have become a creative outlet for me. They're almost like an art piece that changes through the passage of time. Different plants bloom at different times, they bear fruit at different times. Each year the layout changes and I add new elements. These pods are now almost completely dry and near the phase when you would harvest the seeds to save for next year. You can hear the seeds rattling inside. One of the things that I used to struggle with in the early days of my creative career was putting myself out there, putting my work in front of other people. Even doing this YouTube channel is kind of difficult for me. There's always this nagging insecurity of not feeling good enough yet, that my skills aren't there yet, that I need to learn more and get better. And then once I do gather the courage to put myself out there, if I start getting positive feedback, start getting opportunities as a result of my work, I wind up with imposter syndrome. With my artwork, I'd get invited to have a solo show in a gallery, or invited to be a guest speaker at a university, or I'd be asked to teach art or judge an art show, and I'd feel unqualified for all of it, despite all of the years and the hard work that I had done to get me there. I remember the first art show I ever entered. It was a local juried art show, which is where you submit your artwork for the show and then they decide what they think is best. Not everything is included, and sometimes they give out cash prizes for different categories like drawing, painting, photography. And my mom told me about the show and I refused to enter it. I was certain that I wasn't good enough to show in a gallery. And she had one of my drawings that was framed, and she entered the show anyway, and then told me later that I had been accepted into the show. So I went to the gallery opening, and to my surprise, my drawing had won first place, $50. And that gave me the courage to enter more shows. Now, I know this isn't everyone's experience, but even if you have had a disappointing first attempt at something like that, don't be discouraged and just try again. The wonderful thing about the time we live in now is that now more than ever, you can find an audience for your work. Back then, I didn't have the internet. If you wanted to show your art publicly, or if you wanted to publish a book, you had to go through middlemen to do it. And if you wanted to be really successful, you had to move to a city, which is what I did when I graduated from college. And you had to go through gallery directors and agents, and now those places and people still exist, but you don't need them like you used to. You can sidestep the gatekeepers. Now we have Facebook and Instagram and YouTube. You can make a website. You can put yourself out there and you can find an audience, and you can find people that will resonate with your work. It might not be a lot of people, but I'm telling you, they are out there. You could become someone's favorite artist. You could be an inspiration for someone who might be a few years behind you in their own artistic journey. Back in 2011, I had an idea for a novel. And back then, blogs were a big thing, and I had a blog that I wrote in every day, mostly whatever happened to be on my mind at the time. I didn't have many followers. I think it was less than 50. And I decided that since I was writing there anyway every day, then why not write my book there? So I wrote about 1,000 words almost every day over the span of 6 months. At this point, of course, the internet was in full swing, and I had moved back to my small hometown out in a rural area. But I could put myself out there now without anyone's gatekeeping or go-ahead. So gradually, more and more people showed up to the blog to read the new installment for this story. I think by the end, there were about 300 people. And as the book got close to the end, a friend of mine asked if I was going to try to get it published. I said, I don't know. I don't really think it's good enough to actually go through a real publisher. I thought my writing was decent, but not really good enough to compete with real writers. And he suggested uploading it to Amazon. So After about a month of editing it and formatting and making a cover for it, which consisted of a picture of me in a costume and a dramatic pose with some photoshopping, I uploaded it to Amazon as an ebook. It languished there for about 6 months with less than a dozen sales. And in the meantime, I was writing its sequel. And so then again, the second book I self-published through Amazon. And then in the middle of 2012, my audience found me. My sales began this steady climb month after month. People started posting positive reviews. I actually started getting fan mail from all over the world. I put myself out there and my audience found me. By the end of the year, I was earning the same amount in book sales each month as I was at my job. The next thing that happened was I was contacted by a small publisher who had noticed my ranking and my book ranking on Amazon, and they offered me a contract. I got an advance for those 2 books and an advance for a third book, which I was already writing at the time. They redid the covers. The books went into print. I got an additional advance for audiobooks. There was even a foreign language version printed. And it was all because I found the courage to put myself out there even when I didn't feel like I was ready. And it's been more than a decade since I wrote those books, and I still get royalty checks. They aren't that big anymore, but I still get them. I still get fan mail from those books after all this time. After all of this time, there is still an audience that's finding them. Despite all of that, and despite further going on to write a couple more books and some short stories, having them published, I have never really felt like I was a real writer. I could say I was an author because I made these works, but even though I had all this apprehension, I still put myself out there and the audience found me. There were people, thousands of people who liked what I made. I hope that if you're making stuff and you don't feel like you're good enough, certainly work on your skills, but put yourself out there even when you don't feel like you're completely there yet. Don't let that book that you wrote stay as a file on your hard drive. Don't hide away your art until you feel like you're perfect. Your audience is out there. I hope you found some of that interesting or helpful. Thank you for watching.